Tell you what, we'll just sort of jump in. So
Cool.
Kris, how are we doing?
I'm not too bad, thanks, yes.
Good. So welcome to Mastering Business Growth. On this show, we like to speak with people who have done some great things in business, and we do that by speaking to people like yourself who've got a wealth of experience. So please, in your own words, who are you and what do you do?
So I'm Kris Wood. Amongst the multitude of things I get asked to do, the main thing I do is brand strategy. And from a creative point of view, rather than a more strategic facts and figures kind of thing. Background in graphic design, so creativity's always been a huge passion of mine. And that's, like I say, evolved heavily from the very early days and come to the point now that it's kind of the brand strategy is what I love doing. I really get a buzz out with doing that side of it.
So how does that look? So you run your own company?
Yes.
But you work for other companies as well?
I do, yes.
Kind of as like an in-house department almost. So walk me through the structure. How does it look?
So I've got different ways of doing it because sometimes you get a little bit bored of having just clients. So sometimes it's kind of nice to have something a bit more like on a retainer basis where I'm their in-house brand strategy guy. Other ones is just project to project, and I still get the odd website request or graphic design branding kind of side of things. But yeah, it's mainly me. I have got a huge network of people who I use around the globe, really, but mainly in the Northeast, who help me out with more the graphic design, the web development, loads of different creatives who I can just go, right, these are right for this job, draft them in, and do it all under my kind of company.
Yeah, so just kind of going with the flow. I feel like
That's
doing a bit of this, I feel like doing a bit of that. And as the years go on, like you said before we started filming, like sometimes like, do you know what, I want to, go through phases where you want a bit more security, so you might work for someone directly, but then you always come back to working for yourself.
Yeah, well, not so much that now, but there was a patch about 10 plus years ago. I had my graphic design studio, which I'd ran for 10 years or so. I then opened up a print shop to complement. I was doing that much print for my clients that I thought, buy a couple of presses, buy into another company who I could send a lot of print to. So I had the offices, we had that running. It was a lot of work for a little return, especially the print side was hard work. And I had one client who was probably 80% of my workload at the time. And it was kind of, look, sod it. Like, I'd met me now wife. I needed a bit of security. So I just went, I'm going to jack that in and go full-time working for them. And was kind of their in-house brand manager. Built the brand from pretty much nothing up to a 5 million a year business. It was great. But again, that kind of, you start feeling a little caged. It was kind of 2019, I kind of went, I'd actually been offered a job for a recruitment agency to go and be their brand director. And got the job, went through the interview process, got the job, and then said, you don't need one. You don't need a brand director.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait,
it was kind of...
Why?
Because I would have been the best paid graphic designer in the world.
I didn't just keep quiet.
Yeah, I could have. It's just not me. What they needed was somebody just to help guide them, and go back to basics, really. So I did that on the side, weekends and night times. Started my business up, a limited company in the background. Did my 9 to 5, helped that business out, still going as it was. But then helped the recruitment agency out, like set out what their goals were, what their mission, purpose and everything. Then helped them actually build their branding and start doing interviews with industry leaders for them and really taking them up to the next level. I always say kind of what I do is I find businesses that they may not be startups, but they've got startup mentality. They're still in that phase. And I help them grow up from a toddler to a teen up to a grown-up business.
Tell us more about that. How can you identify when someone is, like you say, a bit of a... Because it's funny, I've never really thought of it like that, but when I speak to people who run businesses, they can be small, they can be big, a lot of them have kind of one thing in common. They all kind of report that they don't really know what they're doing still.
Yep.
Always winging it. And maybe that's true, maybe it's not. They obviously do know what they're doing to a degree.
Yes.
So tell me more about that.
So for me, businesses like that are always at the mercy of the market changing, trends changing, even like things going on in America at the moment. It's like, right, we can no longer depend on getting things from the States brought in. We might need to now go into manufacturing.
Literally everything, import, export.
Exactly.
Is just
it's
massive question mark.
Exactly. And businesses will pivot. But when I go in and help a business, those pivots are then driven by decisions they've made earlier on in their strategy, where they might even go, right, what if this happens? What if that happens? So they might not have planned it fully out, but it's there. The difference between what I call a toddler or a business that needs to grow up is that they've got great product, they've got a great service, they've got good people. But when you go in and start digging, do their staff know what the big goal is? Do they know their purpose? Do they know who their ideal customer is? For instance, I did a workshop with a guy who I've known for years. He was my old boss's mentor, lovely fella. And he's got a business which does carbon reporting. 4 people in the business. So I thought, you've got a website, it's very basic, done as a favour style one. You've got an amazing product which allows supply chains to report their carbon. So when it comes to tendering, they have to have this in place. It's a legal requirement. And they've done it for the NHS. They did things for Greggs. I think they actually mapped out the carbon footprint of a vegan and normal sausage roll. Things like that. So really interesting stuff, and for big companies. But they were struggling with the marketing and struggling from growing. Their platform that they'd built, they had so much monthly turnaround on it, like subscription model. But it wasn't quite what they thought it should be. And looking at the business, it was nowhere near what it should be. So we had this workshop, got all 4 of them in a room, thousands of post-it notes all around the walls, and went through a structured framework to go, right, let's go back to basics. What problem is it you solve? Well, not first, let's go right back to the start. Why? Why are you doing what you're doing? And that varied from their love, which was Annie, the main director whose business it is. She knows the world's gone past a point of no return with the environmental crisis and everything. So it was a passion piece for her, and she needed businesses. She knows businesses are going to make the difference, not people drinking out of paper straws and things. Their sales director had a different view on it. The ops director had a different view, and their developer, head of technical, he had a different view on what their thing was. But it was like, no, you're a small business, so all of these points should be included. It shouldn't just be the owner. There should be a group decision.
Did you find there was friction, like people like different?
Yeah, I mean, in their company, not so much, because they're all very nice people. Other times I have had a lot of friction. I've had directors leave the business because they saw the change coming and they weren't comfortable with it. Whatever they were doing or not doing was going to come to the forefront. So people have left after one of my marketing workshops.
Well, this sounds insane, because when you first think about kind of brand strategy, I think people maybe underestimate, well, I certainly did until you just said there, what a big thing it can be.
It should drive every decision the business makes, and everybody in the business.
Yeah.
It should help influence their decisions and make their decisions easier so they're not struggling. So like we said, we sat down in the room, we found out why they were doing it. Then we said, what is it you're doing? And it was that we are allowing companies to report on their right, that's the functional side of it.
Yeah.
Your supply chain can report. So what is the pain point? That's great. That's not the problem solving. That's
yeah. So you start with problem solution.
Yes, that's
Got a
it.
headache, here's paracetamol.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we go deeper than that. What's driving that problem for them to look for an issue? Because every business solves a problem for somebody. And they solve a problem that people are willing to pay somebody else to fix. Because it's that friction is too much for them they might be able to do it themselves. But they solve a problem that people are willing to pay for. And we started digging with that one. And it was a case of, it wasn't because they wanted to help the planet. If they wanted to land their next giant £1 million job or multi-million pound contract, they had to have these bits in place. There's scope 3. So it was kind of, right, so going to that, is your ideal customer who you initially thought the CEO who wants to make a difference in the world? Or is it the guy who's writing the tenders who has to have this as a tick box exercise to get the next contract through the door?
Yeah.
And that totally changed the room's dynamic straight away, because they all thought they had a different product. They all thought they had a different ideal customer. And they all thought they were solving a different problem. And to an extent, they were all right. But what was driving their bottom line was actually, it's the Pareto rule, the 80-20. Most of their stuff was coming from this, we have to have this done. So it's not a point of they want to buy your service. They have to make money and continue with their business. So it was kind of going back to that. They were right, all of our messaging is completely out. How we position ourselves is completely out, because they were trying to change the world and be these eco-warriors. I hate that term because it's not true what they were. There's too many greenwashing people out there, and they were, we're not that. We are making a real difference, but we're doing it for these key people, and it's this person in the business who actually signs up.
Well, that's interesting, like you just said there. So a lot of people, I feel like, do kind of milk these things, like they'll just go hard on buzzwords.
Yeah.
And then that must make it extremely difficult to differentiate yourself as someone who's like, no, we genuinely are out here to solve this problem.
And that's when, going right back to the start, their why really comes into it, because at the time they were starting up, there was hundreds of free options out there for businesses to do it themselves. Most of them greenwashing so that they could seem like they were doing the right thing. Whereas Smart Carbon, as they're called, they did it because, one, it came from a place of, we need to make a difference. How do we then make this a feasible business? And then how do we make meaningful change happen? And that's where, like I say, during the workshop, they were just about to go for a huge tender job with a huge... They do a company that does construction, does loads of different group company. And they went, we can't go and accept that. And it would have been their biggest contract of all time. And they couldn't accept it because they were, if we say yes to this, it might cripple the business. It changes what we're all about. So they went in differently, went, actually, can we do X, Y, Z instead? And it was like, because of that, I think that was only a half-day session. But it made them realise and gave them focus and clarity. This is actually our business. And then from all that decision-making and post-it notes that got gathered, they could then go forward and go, right, we're looking to invest in this. But if we invest in this, does that fulfill our main goal, our mission, our purpose, our values? If we work with this company, do they align with our values? So every decision they make now, they refer back to the brand strategy session. And if it doesn't fit, it's either put it on the back burner because there's something there, or it's no. And one of the biggest things I know and I've learned is in brand strategy, not just knowing what you want, knowing what you don't want is often more important. Especially with customers, especially when people look at their ideal customer and they go, right, let's do these different profiles, let's do this, that and the other. They forget to do profiles they don't want.
Someone has mentioned this to me before, like, so creating a target list, but then also creating a target list of people you don't want specifically. Specifically, because it's like, people are going to get upset, and, if you start marketing anything, they're going to jump on you online and be like, oh, this sucks or whatever. And you need to already know that and be able to make your peace with it, because it's very easy to get disheartened, otherwise.
I mean, I got to a point when I came back from Spain February last year, I think it was last year. I'd wound my business down a little bit because of the lifestyle I had when I was living in Spain. Didn't need a lot of work, so it was kind of... When we came back to the UK, we were instantly in survival mode. We had lost a lot of money. We'd sold our house, our cars, everything. We were starting from scratch. We were homeless. My wife had given up a very well-paid job, so we came back in panic mode. And my first thing was to get straight back out there. I'd not done any networking or anything in a long time, so I was like, right, let's get out there. And I was saying yes to every job that came in. And it was, again, because I'd forgotten all of my strategy, and I was coming from a place of panic. And I knew when I was taking these jobs on, this is a nightmare, I don't want to do this. This is going to be... I'm going to earn less than I ever would charge for this job. I'm going to spend 4 times the amount of time on it. And I'm going to fall out with this customer because they aren't my tribe. They're not who I like to work with.
But to be fair as well, though, like, do you have a choice sometimes?
Well, that was it. I was saying yes because I had to. Every penny counted at the time. And thankfully, over the last 12 months, the business has gone from strength to strength. And it's where I always knew I could get to. And for one reason or another, I'd never quite got there. I think I never backed myself as much as I do now. Getting through what we've got through in the last 2 years, which was probably the lowest points of our life, really. And to get through that successfully and to be learning so much from it and to be in a great place, it's now a kind of, I am picking and choosing the jobs. Mm-hmm. But the benefit of having the profile I thankfully have got is even the jobs I'm saying no to, I go, but I know a kid who loves this work, who you will work well with. And so I'm feeding my network still and feeding it healthily. So people are getting a lot of work out of me, which I know comes back tenfold further down the line.
Of course.
So yeah, it is a case of the brand strategy, knowing who to say no to is as important as who you do want to go after.
So something you said before is you help companies find clarity, focus and clarity. So that's on things like their why. What kind of tangible knock-on effect, or what do you do with the why once you know it? Does it just help you as a company kind of stay, greased up so you know exactly how to approach things? Is it something you integrate into your marketing, your outreach? How do you actually use it? So
that part of the start, like I've said a couple of times now, then dictates or helps shape every decision thereafter. Your positioning. So if you know that you're there to do a certain thing, I often liken my brand strategy to fishing. Just to get it as a layperson's term, and bear with me with this one. So it's kind of, once you know your why, or you're picking out your why, are you going down to the local lake with your kids for a bit of fun? Are you going down to the sea to fish, to feed your family with that fish that night? Are you a commercial trawlerman? Or are you going out for a weekend with your best mate, like Bob and Paul on Gone Fishing, favourite show, love that. Not a big fisherman at all.
Bob who?
Bob Mortimer.
My wife's been watching that, would you believe? I was thinking, I know a Bob who goes fishing.
Yeah, it's such an amazing, relaxing show, just half an hour of just, this is just lovely, hilarious. He's my all-time favourite human being, he is. But, and I'm not into fishing whatsoever, but
Sam is.
I'll have a word with him later then. But yeah, so brand strategy, your why is why you're going. Are you going for a weekend with a friend where there might be a bit of competition, you want to catch the biggest fish out of the two of you, or you're feeding your family where it's an essential? That can then help, right, well, this is why we're doing it. What you're doing is the problem solving. So in this case, the fish need to eat. You need to give them bait, that you're solving their problem of being hungry. That can take on loads of different ways and forms, but that's what you're going to do. So what your problem is, right, I'm going to feed this fish, I'm going to do it with this bait. Your who is the fish. So what are you going to catch? Knowing, again, which not all fishes are worth catching. If you've spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on all this kit and you're going upon and catching sticklebacks, it's not what you want. If you want to go catch a marlin, the kit you've bought is going to be right. So it's kind of, your ideal customer is what fish you're going to go after and which ones you're not going to go after. Your how is the kit, and this is your positioning. So again, if you go down to the seaside with a little net, you're probably going to go and catch crabs. Mm-hmm. Probably say that in a better way. But if you're with your kids and you're going rock pooling, your positioning is perfect with that net. If you're going to go and catch the marlin, your positioning, you need the 5,000 pound rod, you need a boat, you need everything to be, and that's your messaging and everything that's going out. You're telling the fish where you are, what you are. And then there's the where. Again, you don't go to the rock pool if you want to catch a shark, It's kind of, so all the parts of brand strategy, the why, what, who, how, and where
Yeah.
are those 5 key elements that can be related to fishing.
It's such a common analogy as well. People talk about business development and they will say it's just knowing where to fish.
Yes.
It does sound like where is simply one part of it. What if you go to the right place, but you've got everything else wrong?
Exactly. That's it. Say if you go to the sea with a little net, you're not going to catch a thing. So certainly if you go to the sea and you're looking to catch a stickleback, you're not going to catch that. So it's getting that right at the start leads everything else to be right. One of my messaging out there is I want to stop business owners wasting money on marketing. Don't spend a penny of marketing until you've got your brand right. And brand's wrong, brand strategy, and there's a famous quote, I can't remember who said it, but you don't decide your brand. Your brand, you don't own it. Your brand is how people feel when they interact with your business. Mm-hmm. It's the gut feeling they get when they hear the name. It's the gut feeling they feel when they see an advert or your product on the shelves. For instance, Carhartt, my favourite clothing brand. I've got T-shirts that are 20 years old still because they're the last, and it's style that I love. I'll pay more for that because I've bought into their brand. Mm-hmm. Other people see it differently and I wouldn't pay that for that, and so that's it. Your brand, you don't own it. It's what other people think of it. But you can influence the hell out of it, how people think about you, and that's what I help, all the stuff I do. So before you spend a penny on marketing, and people will go out and go, right, I've just spent 10,000 on PPC, on Facebook ads, on Google ads, and I've done okay with it. The next month, nothing. Why? Again, the market's changed, but you are just spitballing, you're just trying and seeing what sticks. And it's kind of so frustrating because I get tarred with the same brush as the marketing side and the mistrust that a lot of people have got with that side of things. There's some great businesses out there who won't take a penny off you until you've done what I do, which is how it should be done. But there is also a lot of people out there who'll happily take a 10 grand fee and go, all right, so who's your audience? Who's this? Who's that? And all right, we'll do this. We'll design it like this. We'll have this as your messaging. And it's made up. And they wonder why they get no return from it. Whereas if they've done this work that I've done and they've got this report at the end of it, more importantly, they've got the knowledge. And this is what I love to do, is educate my customers so that if they then go and get a website done, how many people go to a web development company and they go, I can do this website for 10 grand. But how do you know what my messaging is? How do you know who my ideal customer is? But they'll just go and do it and make a pretty lovely, really functional website that could be found, but does it convert with the right customers? So it's that kind of, all of this brand strategy side then helps make the decisions when you do come to spend the money on the things that bring in business. I think, what is it? Marketing is asking somebody on a date. Brand is why they say yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So something I was just thinking there, and I don't know how this ties in with what you're saying. I guess from your perspective, it's absolutely essential everyone gets this right. So I spoke with someone recently and they said they don't do any marketing at all. Mm-hmm. They said they are 100% referral based.
Yep.
But do you think they've maybe accidentally got this stuff right if they're still doing well?
The thing is, with it, the one comment I always get at the end of a 2-day marketing workshop or the end of a big project, it's all dead simple stuff, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Like when you started saying it at the start there, particularly with this company where there's only 4 of them, it sounded very obvious. And even like you say, the targeting, the choice of, because you do assume when you're reaching out to anyone regarding an offer, it's like, aim for CEOs, MDs, that kind of thing, because they trickle down and give the orders out to other people. Yep. But you're right, this specific service may not be at the top of mind for them. They might not be the kind of person who goes, oh, we do need that. It's not their job to know, really, even though they're the one who would make the decision. A
lot of people skip it. It is, and I always say, it's back to basics. Mm-hmm. Get your foundations right. Everything else will flow. Back to right at the start and one about startup mentality and when a business needs to grow up. A lot of businesses go out and sell and they make a lot of money and they're doing really well. They're not sure why. So therefore, when they do marketing, it is a bit of suck it and see, will this work? Oh, that worked. Yeah, great. Sometimes they may never hit a stumbling block and they might just think, we've got an amazing company, and crack on with them. The company I used to work for, I know, yeah. The company I used to work for had an amazing product, a brand story that wrote itself. It was amazing. And great product, which retailers loved. But we were doing marketing. It was like, we know it because me and the boss built the business, so we knew kind of in and out. We'd done the strategy in our heads. We'd never put it down to paper. And we actually drafted in a local agency, a brand agency, to come in. And this was back when I was more marketing and design than I was brand strategy. And they ran us through the workshops, and they did some really fun ones. It was trying to work out if we were a brand celeb, who would we be? And I was like, what do you mean? It's like, well, how do you come across to your customers? Are you Gordon Ramsay? Are you Jamie Oliver? If cooking was what you do. And it was kind of, we were in the health industry to an extent, and it was kind of, well, actually, we're more Dr. Hillary, who's softly, he's not technical, he's not embarrassing bodies where he's being very graphic. It's kind of softly, but genuinely knows his stuff because he's lived it and done it. So we were doing that, and it was kind of, we had a great company. We had a great product, excellent, beautiful marketing, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, of course.
But we hadn't done the basics. And we'd realised, like, we're a bit masculine because two blokes building the business, both loving the gym and stuff. And then we went a bit too sciencey because we had quite a bit of science background. And we knew we needed to soften it. And that's when we drafted in a company called Gardner Richardson, free plug for them. And they helped us do the basics. And afterwards, it was like, of course. Like,
it's easy to not do your own stuff. Like, everyone's out there, and we're guilty of doing it. A lot of the time, we sell stuff that we ourselves don't always use. I mean, obviously, we do have our own podcast, you know.
Yeah.
But there's other things we do, and, I'm sometimes so busy doing my clients' work that I just say, mine can wait,
Too busy delivering, and that is a symptom of startup mentality.
Yeah.
You're delivering to bring in the money because that's what pays the bills. I was there for a long time since coming back. Just deliver, invoice. When I stepped back and started rebuilding the business and getting what is important to me down, doing what I do for others, for myself, I actually then again reached out to somebody I saw at an event called Atomicon in Newcastle, a guy called Kris James. I joined his group, mentorship, bit of a course, online course, and an amazing community, which has been a huge part of my development and getting more comfortable, getting out there again with networking. And it was everything that I do on this course, but it was a structured way that I wasn't used to doing it, which made me actually work better and a bit more focused, because instead of just doing what I know how to do naturally, it was right, actually I'm going to follow his framework. And again, the same things, but by doing it for somebody else and being accountable, and accountability is a huge thing for what I do as well. It made me stronger, better, more focused, and since then, it's not bragging, but I don't do any marketing other than my LinkedIn posts, which I guess is my marketing. But my outgoing post is kind of, it's all I do. I don't pay for anything. I just get DMs from what I put out there, and referrals, or when I do a good job, I then ask at the end of it, what 5 people that you deal with do you think I could help? Mm-hmm. Dead simple ask. It's amazing how many people will then go, actually, I want to introduce, because you've asked, I will introduce you to these 3 or 5 people.
There's power in just asking.
There is. And that's what I think I've learned over the last 12 months, is just ask. If you're struggling, ask for help. If you just want a bit of advice, there's people out there who are really happy to give you their time. And I'm one of them now. I used to shy away from it, but now it's kind of like, no, I'm not going to charge you for an hour's chat. Like, let's sit down and see what I can do. If there's something that comes off the back of it, amazing. If not, we've both won something,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I thought it was interesting what you said a minute ago. So, how you know how to deliver your own service, inside out, it's instinct to you. It's a similar thing. You need to have someone to check your blind spots.
Yep.
So we've got a couple of clients who are ex Mr. Universe winners, and they both have they train people, but they have trainers. They had trainers when they were doing it. Like, they didn't know it inside out, but they still had someone to give them a plan. And for whatever reason, I guess it allows them to not have to think and just go into do the work.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, my wife's a qualified PT. For all she doesn't do that anymore. She had a PT.
Yeah.
It's the stuff. I know what I'm doing at the gym. Ali helps us out now and then, though. And no, Kris, come on, you're floundering a little bit, and it'll give me a bit of help with things. In fact, she's getting us back on the straight and narrow next week once we get back home. So
very good.
Yes, but it's that accountability. I think with my clients, if you sign up for the 2-day workshop and 6 months kind of support thereafter, you get a weekly or bi-weekly, depending on how busy they are, accountability call, and it's that. Have you done anything? You get SOS calls as well, which are for trouble, but this is purely, are you doing what you said you would? Are you seeing returns? If not, what do you think's the reasoning behind it? But more than that, it's not just the people I'm helping, it's are their staff living the business? Have they got buy-in? It's one thing an MD or a CEO saying, right, this is my mission statement, this is my value proposition, this is what we do. If the rest of the team, one, don't agree with it, that's the worst, because culture goes out the window then. But two, if the staff don't know it, how can they be working towards the bigger goal? Now, one thing I like to say is, if your staff can't say what you do in one sentence, how will your customers know? If even down to the admin, I'm saying admin are the lifeblood of every business. But if they're people who might not be customer facing, they might not be product related, if they can't say what you do in one sentence, your customers definitely can't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, you need buy-in from everybody, decision makers at all levels. Even customers can be because customers see things you don't. Staff at different levels see things. If they're at the coal face, they see things that the rest of your staff might not be comfortable to tell the MDs, the CEOs. But if you get that culture right, and that should be part of your why, then everybody in the business becomes not a salesperson, but business building. They can help build that business no matter which part they're in. And again, right back to the strategy, that all gives you a model and a framework to build that on. And it's not a do it once and then, we've done that. Like we were saying at the start, landscapes change so quickly in this day and age.
Yes, they do.
When I moved to Spain, it was because I can do everything remotely. I have been for 2 years now, so it's fine. I totally overlooked how important face-to-face meetings are. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I came back that my biggest clients started landing. Yeah. And it's funny because one of my biggest clients now, who I'm on a retainer for, but I'm their brand director and probably will become a bigger part of their business. They're a global company. They've got offices Dubai, Miami, one in Newcastle, one Leeds, Amsterdam. And we don't see each other very often. But we jump on a meeting monthly and we get through everything. But we're all flying out there next month to Dubai so we can have an actual brand strategy session. Been working with them for 6 months. We've pulled something together. And again, startup mentality. Business has been going 3 years because we're going to go and celebrate their birthday out there. But it's still in startup mentality. We're now going to go and push to get that little bit more grown-up approach, get everybody on the same page, so that anybody we then bring on board understands what the business is about, and all the decisions we make within it have got reason behind it instead of gut feelings. And those gut feelings have been amazing. They have been, and taking the business from strength to strength. but how long does that last?
Yeah.
So
it's
you've always got to have that. Let's just structure that out a little bit, build the framework, and we can always revisit it as we go. Like I say, it's not a do it once and forget about it.
No, of course.
It's not a token gesture.
Well, something kind of similar I was thinking is when people are working on their brand, let's say you think, right, we've got it right. Do you get like penny drop moments like, right, that's it, it's the one? Or are you ever torn between, there's actually 3 or 4 ways we can approach this and they're all right in different ways, so we kind of got to pick one?
Yep. There'll always, in those situations, there'll always be something that works better. That out of the other ones, some of it's more than emotional, but we like doing this one, and you've got to weigh that up, whether it's nice to work with these kind of people, but the money comes from here. It'll often be a merge of the two rather than clear. But Chris James, who I was talking about before, he's got his favourite quote is, keep the main thing the main thing. Or the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Okay.
So what exactly does that mean?
So have one offer and focus on that is his be all and end all. It's so easy as CEO and MDs and startups to have shiny thing syndrome. Oh, we've got this, it's working, I'm going to go and jump on this project. I want something new and fun. And I think it's a part of the mentality and the structure of entrepreneurs' minds to want to keep doing new stuff.
I'm like that so bad, like I guess right now the thing is it's podcasts.
Yes.
Podcasting. That's it. And do you know as well that's something else we kind of touched on earlier, people needing clarity on what they do, and like everyone who works at the company should be able to say in one sentence what they do. Yeah. Do you ever find, because people kind of overcomplicate marketing, and we'll go on to that, people sometimes forget to say what they do, like literally what they do, So the analogy I've used before is like we provide safety and peace of mind on the road. And it's like, well, can you change my tire or not? So you forgot to tell me.
Yes.
What's the deal?
Yep, that's it. So a lot of people in different size businesses will have hundreds of products and different things. So what they've got to work out is what problem is it they're solving, and it's that what again. I think I keep using little analogies, but you don't buy a 1/4-inch screw. Sorry, it's not. You don't buy a 1/4-inch drill bit. What you want, that's not your problem. You don't go, oh, I really want a 1/4-inch drill bit. What you want is a hole in the wall. Beyond that, again, that's functionality-wise. You want that hole in the wall so you can screw some shelves up, So you go, right, so I want shelves up. That's my problem I'm solving. And it's this 5 whys. Why do you want the shelf up? Why, so we can put some knickknacks on it. Right? Why do you want the knickknacks on it? Also, we can have a nice-looking living room. Also, is the nice-looking living room the problem we're solving? No, it's because your wife has told you you want a nice-looking living room. It's the pride your wife's got on how the house looks. And happy wife, happy life. So that's the problem of what you solve. So the likes of IKEA.
So you buy some screws to be happy.
Yes, that's it. It goes all the way back. The thing you buy isn't necessarily what the problem is.
Yeah.
So a lot of the case it's finding out what that actual problem is and focusing on that, keeping the main thing the main thing. For me, like I say, I still dip into a little bit of graphic design, a little bit of website development. But my thing is it's to get that message out so the companies I'm working for have clarity and focus so that their customers understand what they do. And that they'll take away that friction, makes life so much easier.
Well, on that note, what are some common branding myths, let's say? Because I know much better now, since the start of this conversation, exactly what branding is. But I guess I couldn't have really given you a simple answer as to what it was before, because everyone's got a different idea of what it may be.
They have. I would say the main one a lot of business startups and businessmen and women have is the logo is your brand. Your logo is not your brand. It's not even your identity. It's part of. It's one tiny fraction of it. Marketing and brand are the same thing. Completely not. We've touched on that earlier. Marketing is asking somebody for the date. Brand is why they say yes.
Marketing is attempting to engage.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, it's outbound, brand for me it's kind of your reputation.
Yes.
It's how people feel rather than what they do or buy from you. It's an intangible, and it's often a lot harder to measure than marketing ROI.
It's like starting rumours about yourself.
Yes, exactly. That's kind of, you can go out there and say, we are the best. One of the worst things I see on websites and things is, we are award-winning this, we are award-winning that, we do this, we are the best at this, we love accountancy. It's like, you don't love accountancy. You love saving your customers money. That might be more what you're on about, because it's kind of, because then they can then spend more money with you or go and do better things with their investments, and so it's that. The myths are that, like I say, that brand is intangible and it's not what you say, it's what your customers say and think and feel. Logo is just part of it. How you speak is part of it, like the tone of voice. Even the identity side is your logo, your colours, tone of voice, things like that, which come after the strategy. Once you know what you're trying to do, who you're trying to do it for, you can then write your messaging and create your marketing around that.
Well, do you know, just like you said there, you can't go for these sort of shallow claims, because I don't think I've ever had a pizza that wasn't the best pizza in town,
What is it, Elf? The film Elf?
I've not seen
You've never seen it? Well, essentially,
years ago.
A guy from the North Pole, an elf, who comes to New York and he sees a sign saying New York's best pizza. And he goes inside, he's, well done, you did it. And it's like, because he takes it for face value, he's naive. So it is that, like, and I think one of the main things with it is people don't care about you or your business. One of the biggest things, and I think a lot of designers out there,
no, I know that, I love that.
Can I have a bigger logo? Can you make the logo a little bit bigger? Can you make the logo bigger? Why? People do not want to know you. They want their problem solved. And advertising and marketing should always be about hitting pain points, not selling functions, and sell the benefits, not the function. Was it Zig Ziglar who said, sell the sizzle, not the steak?
Ooh,
it's an old.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard lots of like the Simon Sinek stuff. Start with why and all that.
I think this was back like in the 30s or something. I might be completely wrong with the timescales.
It's like the experience. Like why on earth would you pay £5 for a pint when you can get a crate for a tenner? Well, it's because we want the experience.
Exactly, and it's kind of. I think that's the main thing. People believe if they pay for a shiny website or a shiny logo, that's enough. And it's just not. And I came from that background when I was a graphic designer. I would design logos and branding for my client. They were happy with it. That's all that counted. I would never looked into the fact that this isn't for you. This is for your customers.
It's kind of like philosophy of it, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it is. It's kind of, and when I started reading up on strategy and reading up on a bit more in-depth stuff and taking courses and actually investing in myself, it was then, and I started not falling out with customers. I'm a very nice guy and I hate friction. But I would have heated discussions. Well, Kris, I don't like the logo. It's not for you. Yeah, but my son designed it. I went, yeah, but none of your customers like it. How do you know that? Because I've phoned them up. I've been on calls with them. This is part of what you've asked me to do. They detest how this looks. They think it looks more like a garage than a spa. It's things like that. But people get too invested in the logo. Well,
I've got a term for you, and you'll recognise this. Music background. We used to call it demoitis. Demoitis. So like bands before they go to the studio to do a demo, and they just get used to certain takes in certain ways, or maybe like things where it's not the final one, but there was just something about a certain sound or whatever, even if you're using some terrible drum samples, but for some reason they work in an ironic way. So when you recreate it properly, it's like, it's not hitting the spot. And it's because, like you said, they're emotionally attached to something that they're just familiar with, and familiarity is powerful.
It is, but also breeds contempt. But it is that I've seen people get so stuck on their image because they want it to be a certain way rather than what the audience need.
And what's your point of return from there? Like, you can argue so much, like, well, yes, but here's the knock-on effect. Here's what's best for you. Like, I'm not trying to just win here. This is what will, resonate better with your customers, and you'll make more money. And if they're still not having it, at what point do you go, no worries?
I've walked away from jobs at that point in the past, but often I can articulate, well, look, I've gone away and I've actually spoken to your customers. Here's 5 of your top customers, and this is what they've said about it. Here's 5 strangers who've looked at it. It's funny, on the TV show The Apprentice, when they take the logo off and it's never going to work because they didn't have a brief and they didn't have strategy behind it. But they show people in the public, people on the streets, that, what do you think of this? And nobody lands what it's meant to be. I'll go to complete strangers, people who I know who aren't attached to this particular project. What do you think of this? And open questions, not yes or no's, and get genuine feedback and go back and say, well, if we go with yours, these are the kind of things people are going to get. People will be put off by it. People will think you're something else. What I've A/B tested and shown what we think is what's more going to resonate with the customers, because it's built from the strategy, not from aesthetics, will return this, that, and what X, Y, and Z because of these reasons. If it's still a case of, no, we are going with this one, someone might take on if I go, right, well, actually, these are in for the long haul with me. Let's let them go out with it and see how it goes. And if it feeds back that it's not working, I've got this in the back, ready to go with it. But I'll make them aware that, look, this is what we're doing. If we're to continue, can we have this as a plan B?
Yeah.
But it's changing my brand, not if you're going to stick with it for sticking with its sake. A brand change for the right reasons, like a brand refresh, is worth doing. So it's a case of, if it's still a no, it is a case of, right, well, fantastic, we've got to this point. Take away everything I've done for you. Use it, because I don't do it and keep a closed book. Everything I do, I offer to my customers to take away and learn from it. Best of luck. You know where I am if you need any advice or anything. Yeah. And not a lot of the time, again, if I know people who I don't want that particular job, here's somebody who I know will do the best job with it, and I'll hand them off to part of my network.
So here's a predicament, something I've battled with this a lot, trying to figure out our own branding. And it's something I, quite frankly, just abandon half the time, because things change so much. Like I said, it was originally, we're recording metal bands, and then it was like, oh, well, we can technically record any band. And then it shifts to, now we, then we were in the States for a few years recording there. And it was all just like, just kind of in inner circles and just fed work from labels. And, and then we come back again, then it's like, all right, well, we're doing this now, and then we're doing that, and then we're trying to sell the building as opposed to our service. It's like, what is our thing? And now it's not music at all. It's like podcasts and audiobooks and this and that. So it's constantly changing. And I found even with podcasting, I can come up with, why would people want it? The problem is people quite passionately have their own reasons why. And it's almost like when I do start, peeling back the layers, I find that the one thing people actually definitely want is the fact that it's high quality. It's, convenient. Well, let's say, come to you with a rig. It's, things like secure. So in the fact that we've got like various backups for everything, these are all the one kind of through line. So it's almost like I can't get to that emotional point with people because I might be saying one that doesn't resonate with them. So what would you do in that situation?
A little bit of free strategy advice here, eh?
I con people into giving me free advice.
Yes, is that what this podcast is?
Absolutely.
Oh, great.
I'm learning so much.
Yeah. But no, I think for you, it's a case of you're trying to sell, you've got all of these different things, but what you are offering to these people is that their problem is they want to record something. Mm-hmm. They don't have the skills, or they do but don't have the time, or the kit. They've got the kit, but it's not professional enough. Convenience is a huge thing you've just said there, but it's that confidence that at the end of it, it's done for you.
Yeah.
You come in, you can concentrate on talking about what you're talking about, and everything else has been looked after.
So it's almost unnecessary to go to extra step.
Yeah,
like say a lot of people use it for business development. Again, right here, you and I would maybe not be talking right now if it went for podcasting.
That's it.
People like to come talk about what they're doing. It's some content. So in that respect, it opens up those doors. Quite a lot of our clients have used it for that very reason.
Yeah.
They don't even think about the fact that it's marketing material. It's a door opener.
It certainly is.
And sometimes it's good to go in with people because that's when it hits right, people are like, oh yeah, that's what I need.
Yep.
But it's not always what people want. Some people just want the content.
Yeah, that's it. And if people are doing it from a content point of view, great. But once again, you're offering the convenience, the done-for-you approach. You just need to bring your A game. We'll take on everything else. It's like AI at the moment and all the different plugins. Since I'm doing so many video calls, I was always sitting scribbling, trying to make notes, not hearing what my potential customer was telling me. Typical man can only do one thing at a time, so it was kind of...
If even.
As soon as I look down, they've disappeared out of the universe, and I'm like, oh, what have I missed? What have I missed? But now with AI note takers, I can sit and have a conversation like this, knowing it's being transcribed, knowing the key points are getting taken out of it. I started with a free version, and I started with all the different ones first. I found one I pay more for, but it's perfect for me. And it's like yourself, you'll get people in here who sit, and if I decide to do one, I'm coming straight here. This is a great setup. I feel comfortable from only having met you once before on a video call, and it's kind of right. Actually, it's an hour and a half away, 2.5 if it was a traffic like yesterday. But this is worth a trip. I'd come here every time now because of this conversation. And it's that kind of, so like you say, whether it's just content or not, you're offering a service way beyond microphones and cameras.
Yeah.
You know, it is that you make people feel comfortable. You know, with little chats at the start before the cameras switch on, you get used to the area. So, and a lot of people, and this is funny, like years ago, I was always told, what's a USP? And it's so difficult to come up with one.
Yeah.
And I think it may have been Chris James or somebody else I was speaking to at Atomicon. Sometimes your USP is you. The USP. And somebody said that the other day and I was like, oh, cringe, but really good.
Well, it's the same reason why people can't easily just sell a business.
Yeah.
Because you can sell the equipment, the systems, the processes, but you can't just donate relationships you have in place with people.
That's it. And people buy from people.
Yeah.
And like I say, it's kind of, sometimes your USP is just you. And that is the difference because of your background. I can help businesses because I've started several businesses over the years, varying success, not a lot of success with some of them better than others, currently loving life. And I've done it in different industries. So I've been that person who's hit the ceiling of, why isn't this working? I've worked my way through it, learned a lot from mistakes. And then it's kind of that empathy I've got for where that person is at that time. That's not something that's measurable. That's just something that's inside of me and from my learnings. And that is my USP, that I can sit back and listen for an hour of somebody ranting about their business and hear something that they've said, but they haven't heard themselves, kind of thing. So it's kind of, sometimes that USP is just you and this place and your customers. You are selling a service, but you're the biggest draw on it. So that's kind of whether you're doing bands, podcasts, whatever the next big
we
trend
literally
is.
had that when we were, we had, people working for us, we were doing music. But the problem is you get known as a producer.
Yep.
So when you get, someone else engineering it, they're a bit like, the hell? Because you have musical, knowledge, taste, ideas, things that you might do, and you'll deconstruct a song that's brought in before you even start recording. And it's one thing engineering it, then there's engineering it a way where you get the tropes of the genre.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we're going to record this in a weird way that is not how you would play it in real life, but it's going to sound that specific way. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah. So for me, and in your situation there, to scale this business, and that's not always what people want to do. I certainly
Definitely don't want to do
I
that.
certainly don't want to. But if you did want to bring somebody else in to be able to be you, and that's the goal in any business, that you're not working in the business, you're working on the business, is in your strategy. It's so clear that this is how we do things, and thereafter you might create an actual instruction manual on, actually, when music's X, Y, and Z, we'll always look at it from this point of view to try and get this out of it, and so it's that if you brought somebody on, it's kind of like an academy. You train them how you are and the things that people love about you, but you'll only know those things if you've got the strategy in place to ask them and learn from your customers why they love you. So you can then pass that on down, so that if you did ever want to sell it, the you is actually in the business.
Well, it's I think a lot of people. I mean, I've never done anything business wise with the intent of selling, so it's not really something I would have even thought about. And you maybe even can't replicate that kind of thing in most instances. So I guess you'd have to be deeply focused on your product or service and be able to not be your own USP if you planned on selling it. That's
it. It's like I say right at the start, that why. One of the questions is, what is the goals of the business? Because if you're here to sell, and I say that the carbon reporting company, their goal was to sell. For all, it was a passion piece for a lot of them, and ingrained in what they do and why they do the work they do. They always wanted to sell at some point. And I believe they've just sold it as well. So
brilliant, good for them.
So they got what they wanted out of it. So it's a case of knowing what you want, and some people just want a business so they can scale it and sell it and make the millions. Others, for me, it's a lifestyle. I can do this for as long as AI will let me.
Do you know, I was going to touch on that because AI, huge benefits, huge problems with it. You mentioned obviously the note taker. That's great because not only does it allow you to remember everything, but you can be present. So present. Have you heard about flow state, where it's just something I battle with when I'm doing these podcasts, where it's like you want to have your notes, you want to be preparing for the next thing, but then sometimes I kind of go, no, I'm not going to bother. So they're here almost as like a backup, but then I can be present in the conversation, actually listening to you and not just planning what I'm going to ask next. So having things like an AI note taker allows you to be actually in a conversation more.
It does that, and it's kind of all beyond that. I've got it to a point that it picks out the key things I want it to pick out, not just a general summary.
Is that through training it, or is it?
A little bit of training, and it's choices within the system I use. But instantly, I get that report, I look at it, I go, right, this and this are key points I want my customer to get within the next 10 minutes of the call. They're receiving that. Wow. For me, it's a quick win. They're like, that's everything we've just agreed has been put in front of me to get that clarity, so that when it comes that I go, right, can we jump on a call to run through what I'm going to offer you and do my pitch, as it were. Because the first one's always discovery call.
Yeah.
Learn what I can, then give them the pitch. And on the pitch side of it, it's kind of, you've already agreed to a lot of this. We've got that in thingy. I've emailed you that. So you said what I do for you gets you to X, you're quite willing to pay Y. It's already done. And like I say, the AI side of it has just sped up my onboarding.
Just like having a good assistant.
It is. And like I say, even putting my content out and do a month of hooks based on my style of writing, then go, right, well, actually write this hook, read it and go, no, you missed the mark slightly there. It's getting better every time, but I always like to put my bit on it, especially when the morning of it going out, something will have changed. I'll have learned something new, and it's kind of, right, I'm going to, just before it's scheduled to go out, a couple of quick changes, and it's like, but that's taken hours and hours a week off what I used to have to do. Even when it comes to pulling the end brand reports together and things, and competitor research, chat has saved me hours. It's unfortunate in some respects that I don't have to outsource as much to people who I like and who do a great job. It has already replaced jobs in my business.
It stopped us having to hire people or whatever, just even things like transcribing podcasts.
Yes.
Hours and hours and hours of work.
Yeah, and it is a shame, but when it first started coming on the scene, I went, right, get on this. Mm-hmm. It's going to be the way forward. Kids can no longer be expected just to write an essay themselves. You can't do...
It's done. It's gone.
Yeah, education has to move with it. You can't write essays because it won't be done by the kids anymore. So how do you evolve that, and how do you check that the kids are learning still? But even that, kids won't have to learn because it's back to that. It's back to that.
Yeah,
and
what
that
are you doing it for
that will
anymore?
become the life. That will become life where teachers used to tell us, you'll never have a calculator in your pocket. So we've got a supercomputer in my pockets these days. And it'll get to the point that we're blown away by how the world is. And it's getting there. It is getting there. We had a demo with a client to outsource their call centre to AI agents. And the demo blew our minds. I tried to trip it up, ask it questions, interrupt it. It was a human being. And I was like, is this a lie? Is there a human being on the end of this? Like, just to try and trick us.
Do you know as well, like, even 10 years from now is an absolute blip in human evolution.
Yeah.
An absolute blip. So I just can't even begin to imagine, hopefully it'll do more good than bad and, alleviate kind of menial jobs and allow us to all live a more leisurely life. That's the dream. But, on that note, the final thing I want to ask you about is, with AI getting as good as it is, and people can, ask ChatGPT things like, right, I need brand, strategy putting together. What's the benefit of working with someone like you as opposed to using ChatGPT?
Understanding what it's telling you. Yes, you could then ask it, what does this mean? How do I do this? And you could get a pinpoint, do it for you. You can. I've tested it and it's done a fairly good output from it. Whether I know what to ask it is the difference why I got a good version of a brand strategy churned out in seconds. Could be. But it's that facilitation. It's at knowing what questions to ask, knowing the difficult questions to ask.
Could you ask it that first?
You could, I guess.
What questions should I ask?
You could, but it's... For me, I can sit in a workshop. I can go to a client's offices and I'll see things that aren't what they're even asking. One customer, a few years ago now, they thought their problem was their website. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't. So they would have been asking the wrong things from the off, and it's knowing what to ask and what not. So they just thought, our website isn't working. Turned out it wasn't. They switched their website off because of too many sales affecting their factory floor, affecting another side of their business.
That's a great problem.
I sat there and I went, I'm not going to touch the website right at the minute. What we're going to do is go down onto your factory floor and have a look. Within minutes, I'd saved them thousands a month because I'd noticed a huge area not being used. Yet the area that we're having to switch the website off for was outsourced to another company that they were paying top notch for storage and pick and packing. So the problem straight away was alleviated just by asking a different question and spotting something. And I don't think AI is there yet. It's that human side. And some people don't want to say certain things because they're afraid of looking daft, afraid of looking like they don't know what they're talking about in the room. You see these little things going, there's somebody sitting over there he's not happy, but he's not saying anything. Take him to one side when we go out for a coffee, when we have a break, and just get it out and make sure he knows it's a safe space and that we can talk about it. And then it's a case of, right, well, actually, I've spoken to 3 of your staff. One of your staff, she said that she's not comfortable with this. He said that. And I'll know how to broach that in a way that doesn't break their trust or put them in the firing line. So I think it's just that human element still isn't can't be replaced.
I think as well, we're gonna hit a point where we go, I don't want it to be more convenient. I just want human stuff. There's already a trend of kids these days just swearing off smartphones and that, and just trying to do things like be more present, live a more human experience, let's say.
Yeah. People are going back, and I've seen this on train journeys. I saw an iPod 3G the other day.
It's a great idea.
And I went, I've got mine. Do I dig it out? I went, in fact, no, you know what it is? I've got my Walkman, my tape player. That just
doesn't quite fit in your pocket.
I did buy one of the best ones available before tapes went out, and it is the size of a tape, more or less. So it does fit. You do have the whole analog flipping it. Well, it does flip sides, but putting the tapes in and out and carrying them with you. But there's something nice about that, of being disconnected from the digital world.
This as well, when you've got like 10 DVDs just near your TV, and it's like, well, which one? It's way easier to enjoy a movie as opposed to scrolling through
hours of
10 different platforms going, what shall I watch?
That's it.
But you just totally accept it more. It's that whole, a la carte versus, full menu. People like just, oh, you coming to mine tonight? We're going to get pizza. Sounds great. But if I said, what do you want to eat? It's like, oh my God, the paradox of choice,
Deliitis, my brother-in-law calls it, and he suffers from it badly. He would go to a sandwich shop or something, and if they've got more than 5 options, we're there for half an hour. What if I choose this and I don't like it? Oh, there's this, there's that. Well, there's this, there's that. And it is that, like, sometimes just going back to having what you've got, just taking what you need and being happy with it. And I think, like I say, the AI and everything like that, it'll get to a point. This is great for these jobs. It does miss the mark on some things, but I want humans. I want that human interaction. I want people. I want to be around people. And I think that happened with video calls. It was forced on us. 2020, was it?
About then, yeah.
It was forced on us to adopt this way of life. And it was great because it evolved the world for good and bad. Outside seating got a lot better in restaurants and bars and things. People got outside, appreciated being outside more. Video calls made working from home a thing, and I was quite happy with it. Other people weren't. But it got the point where it was just such a stressful thing to have to be on camera day in, day out, and not have that human interaction. My wife struggled with working from home. She opted to go into the office as soon as you were allowed to go in 2 days a week. She would take those days. And I think the same thing will happen. It'll be that, this is great, this is great, this is great. Actually, I'm missing the old ways. Vinyl having a massive resurgence because we miss the old ways. We are nostalgic beings, and I think it'll get back to that.
That's great. Well, I'll tell you what, Kris, we'll leave it there. I've really enjoyed that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thoroughly enjoyed it.